And I first came here. Like I said, organized crime was in town, and if you were a poker player, you were a gambler, you were whatever, you were a potential target for those guys, and if they approached you, you had a couple choices. Either going to pay them tribute, part of what you're going to give them a percentage of what you won, or you were going to have a problem with them, and a problem very likely could end up with you getting killed. So I knew if at that point in time ever came, I was never ever going to get shook down by an organized crime guy. That wasn't going to happen. But I also knew that I couldn't win, because if it ever came to that, I had to leave town. In the first few years I lived here, I lived like a hermit. I never left that. The only place I went to was a Horseshoe. We didn't go to a lot of places sociably, things like that. And then I made a mistake. I started playing poker professionally. My partner was Chip Reese. And then my name got around town a little bit too, because I was playing sports, playing high. I had about 30 guys on the street working for me. And then I did get approached, and I was approached to meet with Tony Spilotro. And I knew what the discussion was going to be about, and so I just left. I went back to Kentucky, where I'm from, and I was prepared to stay there. I would have never came back, but a few months later he got killed in a cornfield in Indiana, and then he was killed, and organized crime basically was over here then. And then I came back, and
maybe I misfollowed the story, but it sounds like at one point you did meet with Spilotro with Benny Binion. He called a meeting for you on your behalf.
No, I had a brief meeting with Tony Spilotro at Oscar's office, just Tony Spilotro and myself.
Okay.
The meeting you're referring to with Spilotro and Benny Binion was actually, that involved Billy Baxter and Doyle Brunson.
Okay.
They'd had a run-in with Spilotro also, and Benny Binion had agreed to talk to Spilotro, and it's a funny story, and you're right, it's in the book, but it involved Doyle Brunson and Billy Baxter. That one didn't involve me.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was Benny like as a person? Just give us some insight into him.
I've said this many times, and the word common sense is used a lot, and the majority of people that use common sense, they really don't understand what common sense isn't so common. Benny Binion was undoubtedly, from my perspective, the smartest man I've ever known when it came to common sense. Very engaging guy. He had a plaque in his office. He said, "My friends can do no wrong, my enemies can do no right." And that's the way he lived his life. And he was a great guy to have as a friend, and he was probably a really bad guy to have as an enemy.
Yeah.
But Benny Binion really, unless somebody bothered Benny Binion, he didn't, but he could hold his own if he needed to. He was a great guy. His oldest son, Jack, is I consider to be, if not my best friend, because a lot of our friends, he's certainly one of my best friends. And Benny his word was his bond. If he told you something, he was going to do it, and you knew where you stood with him. He was a funny guy, a real witty guy. He truly was. The word character is, in my opinion, is so overused. But he truly was a character. There's no question about it. He was a Las Vegas icon.
So it's funny you say that, because I haven't obviously come from that generation, and dealing with people of that generation, I never had that opportunity except for Oscar. And when you say your word is your bond, we're sitting here in Oscar's Steakhouse, and I remember when we did the deal for this place to be called Oscar's, and Oscar's our partner to this day, we were going to sign an agreement. And Oscar took one look at the agreement and said, "Look, I'll sign this. But just so you know, what I tell you I'm going to do, and you better be the same way, otherwise this document's irrelevant," because I'm a man of my word, basically.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me forever. And to this day, we've been partners now 12 years. We've never looked at that document. It's always been what we said we were going to do. And I guess that's a dying breed today, because everything is, I don't want to say dying breed, but it doesn't exist anymore because people are so litigious and everything's contracts, and it's a shame that's gone.
Well, I agree. Documents are only as good as the people who sign them.
Yeah.
You know,